Good afternoon. My name is Drew Mellor and I'm the leader of BCP Council. Welcome to our fortnightly Facebook Live session where have the opportunity to ask some questions in the chat bar, and I'll answer as many of them as I can live. So please, by all means, put some messages in the chat bar. I'll just start with a brief update in terms of the current COVID situation. So nationally, most people will be aware we're not being released from restrictions on the 21st of June because of the Delta variant and the rises in cases there. The expectation is now that we put that to the 19th of July. So we've got another 4 weeks of the current restrictions we're in. A couple of areas where that has actually been relaxed is in terms of weddings. More than 30 people can attend a wedding now, and there's some changes happening to residential homes and making it easier for people to go out on visits, etc. So we can provide details of that. In our local context, we've just to give some numbers. So our current rate of COVID cases is 51 per 100,000 of population. That number's gone up from 11 last week, so it has risen, really quickly. We're in that, high growth phase. It's still a lot smaller as a number than it was, right at the start. And it's mostly, the highest levels of transmission at the moment are in the age groups 17 to 18 and 19 to 24. So it very much proves that the vaccine is working, because in the 60 plus age groups, really minimal transmission and cases we're seeing. So the vaccines work. Please get one. There is currently anybody over 23 can get a vaccine, and that's going to come down maybe even today to 21, and then by the end of the week to 18. So we really do encourage everybody to get their first vaccine. Go and get your second vaccine if you haven't already, and if you haven't actually taken up the vaccine yet, we just, the data is there, it works. We really encourage everybody to do it. It's a really easy way to do it. Then effectively the only other comment was to prove that vaccine piece. We've got 4 people in hospital in Dorset with COVID, and we had over 600 at the peak effectively. So the hospital transmission, the hospital rates are still not there, which is another success factor about the vaccine. So get it done. And thanks massively to our teams of volunteers and the NHS for the great work in doing that. Okay, let me go to the questions now and start answering some questions. Okay. So I've got a long question from Ryan Stiggins around Dexter Sports Youth Football Club. So we've got it on screen now, so I won't read it out. So in terms of why are the council not forthcoming in approving the start of this project, Dexter? Ryan, what I'll do is I'll look into that personally. We're stepping up, but we've got a whole playing pitch strategy which we're doing quite a lot of work on now, and also through both our Cllr and our Futures Fund, we're bringing quite a lot of infrastructure investment in. So we should be able to move that one forward. But I'll personally take a note, and then I will come back to you, Ryan. Thank you. So let me back to the top of the list. Okay, got a question from Dan Ford around the people coming down when it's hot and sunny and parking on pavements, roundabouts, and people's private residential spaces. We've taken last year to prepare for it, and you promised you would tackle it, but it didn't seem that way in the last few weekends. So locals have fed back that they don't feel they can leave their houses. It's busy, traffic infrastructure collapses. Please, can you and tell if it's then the message ends. But it's effectively a question around the summer readiness plan in terms of we had in place, and the preparation we've done on that, and then but particularly around the traffic piece. So Dan, I think the first thing to acknowledge is it is a problem. It's a genuinely big problem, and we do get very, very busy on sunny days, and we've got the best beach, officially got the best beach in the UK. One of the top 20 beaches in the world. So, our traffic infrastructure does struggle when we have a significant amount of influx of visitors. Across the breadth of the summer readiness, work we did, so much was better. in terms of, the beaches were cleaner. All the bins worked really well. We had a lot more people to tackle, antisocial behaviour. The main area we've got to really focus on now is around that traffic piece. Just to give some data, so the busiest week last year and the traffic on last Sunday. So the busiest week last year was 65% of the traffic of this year. So we were nearly a third again busier this year. So this is the busiest we've been. What we are doing, we have at the start of last year we didn't have tow-away operation. We do have a tow-away operation now. It's perversely that actually struggles when areas are gridlocked. So what we're trying to look to do now is to put more visible enforcement around towing, so getting tow trucks out and ready to go in problem areas. And we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep learning from what's happened and course correcting. Putting more visible signage up. We're now liaising in terms of the signage in terms of M27, A31. So when we're as busy as we were last Sunday, we can actually tell people, fine, still come if you want, but it's going to take you, the length of time it's going to take you to come and up. Car parks are full. So, Dan, I completely understand the question. Yeah, absolutely right. We're really proud, genuinely, of the summer readiness plan. It's significantly better than last year. Parking is the main thing we've got to focus on. There is just one point I just have to add to that, though, is when we are a fantastic destination and people are going to want to come here. So at some point, we all know 4 years outside of COVID, in really sunny days, bank holiday weekends, it's busy here. So it's never going to be perfect, but we are doing all we can. And Dan, you're absolutely right. In what we have to get to is a position where locals can understand, feel safe where we are. We're doing a lot of work on that, but we haven't got there yet. So thanks for the question, Dan. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Yeah, and actually that's a fair point. Elizabeth Ramsey's just said, was great to see clean beaches in Southbourne, left litter free and people using the bins. Yeah, Elizabeth, thanks for that. As I said in the last message, we absolutely haven't got everything right, yet. We're going to keep course correcting, but it is an improvement. So we put in over 650 additional bins along the seafront. We collected, I think this weekend it was 89 tons of waste. So, it's a huge amount there. Interestingly, we actually had some bins were overflowing when the bin next to it was empty, but the lid wasn't raised on it. So what we're doing now is making sure our patrols will go and actually make sure, bins are being opened. So even it's not all about money. Sometimes it's just about simple things like that, trying the bin that's next to it. And we're going to make sure more of those are open. But thank you very much for your comment, Elizabeth, and my thanks to our amazing beach cleaning teams who are up and really early in the hours to tidy our beaches. Okay, so Sue Liverage, and it's again about the Liversidge, about the parking issues. We're talking about ticketing now. Tow-away zones need to be introduced. So Sue, effectively, your point about tow trucks. So we don't actually have any tow trucks, but we have a contract which enables us to contract tow trucks. So what we're going to do is, as part of my previous answer, we're going to make sure those tow trucks are available more visibly and more readily available in the areas, because they have difficulty moving around when it's gridlocked like everybody else does. We did a record number of PCNs, parking tickets, on Sunday. So again, that just proves it was busier. So we do have more people enforcing. By no means is that a perfect solution, because we all saw the scenes where a number of cars weren't ticketed. Really tricky to get that balance right, because we need a significant amount of extra enforcement officers on a number of days a year. To have them available to be ticketing is difficult. We're putting a lot of emergency resource up, but it's trying to get that balance right. We are ticketing more than we ever have done. One of the issues we've got as well is that the level of tickets aren't actually that deterrent in some cases. So potentially a £25 ticket, that's actually set nationally by government, and our portfolio holder for transport, Mike Green, and is engaging with our local MPs and to lead a national campaign to actually give us the opportunity to put a genuine deterrent in there now, and look to raise that parking. So it's something we're bringing forward and working on, Sue. It is better than it was, but we are going to be busy. We're doing a lot of work, and we're going to keep trying to get better. So Sue, thanks for your comment. Okay, Claire Hathaway Jennings, thank you. Can you cut some of the grass? We have litter being left around our area, and my son is unable to play where we live. Okay, Claire, thank you. We've got a commitment around cleaner, greener, safer. So what we're trying to do is to make sure areas in general are of a higher standard. There are some instances what we've done in our biodiversity as a trial, where we've left some verges deliberately left some verges to grow for a longer period, effectively to help biodiversity, the bee population, etc. as a trial. We've actually got quite a lot of feedback from people that it's why aren't we cutting the grass anymore effectively? Is it a cost-cutting measure? And it absolutely isn't. I guess the point of doing trials is to test the feedback. We'd really like to be able to improve our biodiversity in the area, but not at the expense of people thinking that the area isn't cared for and aren't proud of it. So I think there's a couple of things there. We need to be a little bit better at our messaging to say this is why we're doing some of these verges have been left, and it's a deliberate thing. But then we also need to really genuinely listen to the feedback from people and actually work out, is that something we want to go forward again with next year or not? Other than the biodiversity point, we have an absolute commitment, Claire, around cleaner, greener, safer. So we want our areas to be cleaner. We put a lot more money into that since October the 1st last year. Greener, so we're planting more trees, and safer. So we're doing a lot of work with our antisocial behaviour officers, our CSAS officers, and our partners of police. So Claire, it's a trial, and we will be getting to it. Thank you very much for the feedback. And when we assess the results of that trial, that feedback will be part of it. So thank you, Claire. Okay, Dave James Edwards says about park and ride. Okay, yeah, David, I think this is effectively one of the, it's about now looking at some of the solutions and ideas and things we can step up, and it worked well and work didn't. Park and ride is something we didn't have available last year. So we put in 2 park and ride schemes for this summer. So just as a general point, so people are aware, you can park at Kings Park and be taken down to Boscombe Beach, or you can park at the Poole Civic Centre and be taken down to Sandbanks, and that is stood up for the duration of the summer. So it is available. It's something we've invested in. It wasn't last year. We had, I think it was about 550 people use that this weekend. That is about half of the capacity. So even on the busiest weekend we've had, it wasn't full. So I think the part of that is our communications. We need to be, and please, spread the word. And we're going to try and do more of that in terms of the messaging on motorways and A31, etc., directing people to the park and ride, doing better at talking about it. So it's something we stood up this year we didn't have last year, and it took 550 people off the road this weekend. Could have taken a lot more. Dave, when it's full, if these things get full and well used, we'll do more of it. We're absolutely committed to doing whatever we can to sort this problem out. We're going to have to accept that our beaches will be busy, our car parks will be busy on fantastic days, but that doesn't mean we can't, so we don't need a permanent park and ride, because we need it in the summer when it's busy. We have set 2 up and they're not being used to capacity. We want them to be, and if they are, we'll do more of them. And if it works well, we'll commit to doing it going forward. So Dave, really good point, good question. We're really up for any other feedback as well in ideas around how we, continue to improve the situation about our summer readiness. Okay, Sarah Churchill, question about SEND children. SEND children in particular have been deprived of vital support through the pandemic. Have the BCP reserved extra funding for both catch-up, but SEND support in particular? Often the HCP funding fell into schools, banks, but were not spent on children with disabilities. Effectively, so I won't comment around. I'm a governor of a school who I know, spends its EHCP provision, really prudently, and it's very pupil-centred. So I won't comment on your second part of the question, Sarah. But there's a couple of things I can definitely draw out in the first part. So absolutely, all our children, actually, let's be clear, have suffered during the pandemic, and haven't been at school. They've been a myriad of different problems that they're facing, and they need to catch up. both emotionally and academically. So Sarah, one of the things we were really proud to do in February, I believe we were the first council in the country to introduce a catch-up fund. So we've called it a families investment fund. So we put £1 million this year. We're looking to hopefully replicate that for the life of this council, if we can, and that is exactly that, Sarah. So it's about supporting children and families to catch up. So parts of that it will involve speech and language therapy, to close a gap where people haven't been at school. Part of that, things like some of our children in care having the ability to access residential trips, etc. But it's exactly that, to support people catching up from COVID. There's a mental health provision, piece in there as well. One of the first things we did in our 100-day plan back in October was to stand up some extra money for child's mental health. So yes, very much so. There is, we've got £1 million we're putting into that catch up, and that involves all children, including SEND children. On SEND specifically, we brought forward again in February a £10 million capital pot of money to invest in capital. So that means facilities, effectively. So in enhancing schools' ability to incorporate and include SEND children, stepping up other SEND places. We've just opened the Bournemouth Learning Centre and invested a significant amount of money to put extra SEND places in there. So Sarah, we're absolutely committed that every child, this needs to be a fantastic place for every child to grow up. That's across the board, but we're particularly committed to investing in the SEND children environment. Part of that, and part of the reason we wanted to put the £10 million fund in place is we're well aware that a lot of SEND children have to travel a long way away from home to access education and services, and that takes them out of their communities. And part of childhood is about around being a part of your community and interacting with your friends and neighbours. And so we want to be able to stand up more SEND provision in BCP, and we're determined to do it, Sarah. So thank you. And by all means, if any particular questions, always feed directly into me. And just on that, my email address is drew.mellor@bcpcouncil.gov.uk. So by all means, feel free to email me directly if there's anything we can look at. Okay, Caroline Greenland, talking about a pass of BCP residents. Yeah, interesting question, Caroline. So we have been looking and doing some consultation on effective, sort of residential zones we can use in zonal parking. The issue with that is then effectively what you'll be doing is you'll be saying that other people who don't have one of those passes can't park where they normally park. So the surrounding areas of our beaches. So they're not actually hugely popular. You can go and get effectively a pass which enables you to park in our car parks and our beach car parks. Problem with that is, we all know by 8:30, 9 o'clock on really the busiest days, the car parks are all full. So it isn't a perfect scenario, for residents, Caroline. I think one of the benefits is we know the area better, so we can go to some of the other spots, and we know when is the right time to access the beach and when isn't. But Caroline, we look at absolutely everything. We are considering zonal parking schemes, but it's getting that balance right between being able to use them for the rest of the time and then making them more enforceable and other people not being able to use them when it's really busy. So Caroline, thank you for your question. Okay, let's find another question. Yeah, Sue Liveridge, we don't have any tow trucks. We as I believe I answered you before, we don't have any tow trucks. We contract with a contractor who has the tow truck. So we, as BCP Council, doesn't have any. We need to use them at certain points, so we contract with them on that. Okay, fine. Let me find another question. Okay, Kevin Chapman, a question on toilets in Paul Key, Beta Park, and quite a month ago, still in action, they're a disgrace. Okay, so in terms of Paul Key, there's a couple of things about Paul Key specifically. So we are investigating how we can install more permanent toilet provision on Paul Key. We're absolutely committed to making sure we replace the toilets there. We have improved a significant number of toilets. We put £300,000 at the start of the summer into increasing the upgrading, sorry, not increasing, upgrading the toilets along the beach. So the most in need have been upgraded. That's a consistent program. We're gonna do more of it. So we are committed to doing that. I'm personally, committed to making sure that Poole Quay has adequate toilet provision. We've got there is a toilet there, a private toilet, which is quite often locked. I personally ask our planning team and our planning enforcement team to ascertain how we can, enforce getting that open more often in the long term. If that's not possible, we will be in negotiations with Poole Harbour Commissioners about how we can put a new toilet provision on the quay. We absolutely need it, and I've asked for temporary toilet provision on the quay for this summer, and we're looking at the logistics of that as well. So Kevin, there's a lot happening on that. Why is there a lot happening? Because there needs to be, because standard and state of some of our toilets aren't good enough. You've also asked about Beta Park as well, and I know work's going on there. So Kevin, I would directly ask the environment team to check on the toilet provision you're talking about, but in terms of both a short-term summer provision and a longer-term provision on the Poole Quay, we're absolutely committed to doing it. Whether that's the one that's already there, we just make sure is more regularly open, or whether we invest in a new one, we will do it. So Kevin, we get it, we understand, and are very happy to keep hearing the feedback, because we've got to get that right. Yeah, Jason Giddings, why don't you highlight the park and ride with bigger and better signage? You're right. We need to. I think that's one of the lessons. Actually, you've got to keep looking at what works and what doesn't. It's better to have it. We're really delighted it was there, but we needed better signage. We need better communications on it. So we will be doing that, and further back, and also please spread the word about it. Even if it's just ends up being a locally used thing, it doesn't matter as long as more people can access the beach safely, and we're committed to using it keeping it if people use it. Sharon Alexander, why are your binmen so careless? They broke the lid of my food waste bin. 3 weeks replacement. Had that been 30 minutes in a bin and smashed the lid off of it. Okay, so look, apologies about that particular scenario. Effectively, I'm wondering if that might be a particular issue with food waste bins. I'll ask our environment portfolio holder, Environment and Waste, Mark Anderson, if that's a regular thing or more of a one-off. I just say, in terms of my own personal experience, our bin men we see regularly are absolutely amazing. We've just anecdotally have seen them regularly, going up and helping, an elderly neighbour with their bin, and having, conversation on it. So for me, there's an element, a lot of our bin men go absolutely above and beyond, and we're really lucky to have them. If there's an isolated incident, Sharon, I'm sorry. I will pass your comment back on to our Environment and Waste portfolio holder, Mark Anderson, Sharon. So sorry about that. Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay, Stu Smith, this is an interesting question. Can you make it easier for people to report illegal parking over the weekends? An app maybe, dedicated number to call. Yeah, Stu. So effectively, we have ability to report them, but we haven't, we haven't done that in an app form, and it's a very interesting idea. We're looking at how we can be a better digitally, enabled council. So we can certainly look into that. We have got now the Beach app, which I'm not sure if everybody would have heard of. Over 30,000 downloads of it a couple of weeks ago, and that enables us to see what parts of the beach are really busy in real term, and also some of the car parks. So it may well be that we can, look to sort of extend that out. Brilliant. Thanks for my colleagues. We've now got a number to report illegally parked vehicles. I do like the idea of an app function. I think a lot of people prefer to be able to just work on their phones effectively. So we might have text ability. I'm not sure if we do. Stu, we will definitely look into it. And thank you very much for the suggestion. And thanks to colleagues for putting that number up again. So Clive Tyres previously gave some supported comments about Poole Speedway remaining at the stadium, as the stadium was originally given to people of Poole as a sports facility. What constructive pressure can the council bring on the leaseholder, Gaming International, to reduce the draconian measures imposed on the parks management. Yeah, so Clive, you know, I'll just try and brief this because I realise I'm quite far behind some of the questions. We've got quite a lot of questions coming in today. We're absolutely committed to you know, retaining Speedway. You know, in terms of that site, we've had discussions with the owners about you know, their redevelopment plans, and you know, we've made it really clear that Speedway needs to be a really important part of that. So we are in discussions. You know, we actually did have some really positive feedback from the management at Poole Speedway, thanking us for effectively, you know, doing a small part of unlocking their ability to open again. So I think we're on the right track with that, Clive, and you have my personal commitment. But by all means, if there's anything specific, please feel free to let me know. Right, I'm going to now skip some questions a bit more because I realise sort of I'm sort of 10 minutes behind on some of these questions. So if we don't get to it, we'll try and get to it later or type, and we're going to try and get some of the more current ones as well. Yeah, Tim Clark about parking. Yeah, you know, we are looking to do, you know, to sort of harmonise all services. So we would have abilities to park across the conurbation at some point. Okay. Yeah, Alison talking about the grass verge is actually looking good. So it's a positive element. We start, if people weren't here earlier, we had a question about grass cutting. Effectively, we're doing it to increase, but we're not doing it to increase biodiversity, which is positive in some areas, and other people less so. Okay, right. Okay, Lorraine Holland's asked a question about has any decision been taken concerning road closures at Oakdale and Tattenham, please? So Lorraine, technically no decision has been made. What we've done is, since we've taken control of the administration, as we've said, really feedback to your ward councillors. I think ward councillors weren't consulted, and they're actually asked to not be part of the process when the original ETROs came in. So please, if you've got largely, if you've got ETROs remaining in place, it's because there's some support from your ward councillor. So please go and contact them and give your feedback. We're starting to see some of the decisions being made, and because we're effectively through the 6 month, you know, timing now. So please feedback to your ward councillors as those decisions are being made. Okay, let me see. Yeah, Nadia Flint. It's a question about Poole Crematorium. You know, it's a difficult topic, this effectively, but let's be, you know, sort of transparent in answering it. So the Poole Crematorium was the incinerators effectively were at end of life, and it was a situation where they effectively at strong risk of breaking down. So a decision had to be made, and this was back in the previous Poole Council. Pre-2019, pre-BCP Council existing, it would have cost, I believe from memory, around about £700,000 to fix that and put new incinerators in. And the Poole Council at that time decided that wasn't something they could do. What's currently happening, we actually have a reasonable amount of ability in some of our other crematoriums. So sometimes people are being cremated elsewhere. It's something we've got under review. I've been in discussions with our team, effectively how we can look at this and make sure we've got a really incredible provision, because I think it's a massive responsibility of the council. We've got the market, the funeral director market, costs have escalated really massively in the last few years. They do a fantastic service, but the costs have gone up. So we need to make sure the council is responsibly, acting this. So Nadia, you're right. It is disappointing that it's not there. It's a significant amount of investment to put it in, and it is under review. We may well decide to invest in it, but it has to be as part of our overall crematorium strategy. So Nadia, all I can say is I promise you it's under review, and I do take it really seriously. Okay, last couple of minutes left now. So okay. And Bailey's asked a question about, can we make it easier to report drug offence to the police? We're in regular dialogue with the police. I have fed back personally that 101 can be difficult. One thing that's just worth just stating some of the feedback I'd had from it was that people don't get contacted afterwards, but that doesn't mean what you've actually put on there hasn't been really useful. Police consistently asking us to interact with them in real time. So if they see something happening, let them know, and they will respond. So it's not a 999 emergency, but you should report it. 101, does work, and even if you haven't been called back, it doesn't mean that they haven't used it. But I think we're all committed to working out how we can access information better. Okay. Let me see if I can answer anything else. Fine. Richard Burfoot, thank you very much for your question. Your local road, Winston Avenue, it's a road I know very well, and I remember we had a conversation about this. I have actually asked our transport portfolio and transport team to look at whether we can do wider trials outside school areas, particularly not just this one. There's a school very near where Richard is talking about, because the 20-mile-an-hour limit is actually quite close to some schools, whereas this road effectively could be you could use that 20-mile-an-hour limit further down. So that is in train, Richard, and we've got I'll chase up effectively what the response has been to that, but we are looking to see whether we can do a bit more road safety analysis, and then maybe potential extension of 20-mile-an-hour limits outside schools, because schools have to be a safe place for kids to go. Okay, fine, brilliant. Thank you very much. That we are now at 1:30. I appreciate there's a number of questions that I wouldn't have had time to answer. What I'll do and what we'll do is we'll try and make sure throughout the afternoon we've got answers to those questions online. We'll have another one of these sessions in 2 weeks' time. What we would like to do more of, and we've got the facility now to bring different people into this. It's not just whoever sat in front of one screen. So we'd really like some feedback in terms of what topics you'd like to be discussed here, whether you'd like to see other people from the council, other people externally, etc. We think it's great. We really like getting a lot of feedback, and we get some really good feedback from the fact we're doing this, but we need to do more of it. So please come up with ideas, anything that'd be useful. So put in the chat bar, email me directly. That's drew.mellor@bcpcouncil.gov.uk, and we're really happy for any suggestions. But we're back here in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your support around our summer readiness plans as well. We know everything's not perfect. We're really confident it's a fact that it's massively improved from last year, which we're proud of the efforts of our officers and our amazing partners, the police, in doing. But there's more to do, and we're going to do it. So keep your feedback coming in. Really appreciate it, and thank you very much for your time. Cheers.